What you see on this slide here is you see the same die produced at different architectural points, at different process points. So here at 250 nanometers, then at 180, 130, 90 nanometers, 65 nanometers, and then 45 nanometers, which is the current high production technology that we have today. We're making hundreds of millions of devices in 45 nanometers. And you can see that where I once would have used an entire wafer to create one of these devices, I can now do thousands of them on the same device and do it cost effectively. Each time we do this, we're able to either double capabilities or reduce cost. But we ran into a problem of about 65 nanometers, and that problem was that physics was catching up to us, that the distance between the lines on a die were 6 and 7 atoms wide, and therefore a slight imperfection and you would throw away the die. But more important than that, you would constantly have this leakage of electricity like water running through pebbles. So what we had to do was change the fundamentals of how microprocessor transistors were designed. For the first time in over 30 years, we changed that process technology, which allows for an enormous increase in density, a huge increase in switching times, and a dramatic reduction in the amount of leakage current, which is heat or energy, that was produced. So a very big change that came as a result of this transistor change, and it allowed us to continue to make Moore's law work. Now, why is that important? Well, because if we didn't do this, the product that we announced today would be that big. Okay? What you see here is on a 10 micron process, which is a process of not that long ago. That's how big it would be. Of course, the answer is an electron would take forever to get from one part of the die. It wouldn't work. But the point is that Moore's law is something that the world, even Intel, thinks is for granted, but is unbelievably difficult to do. And it's something that requires billions and billions of investment and really smart people taking risks over a period of years to accomplish. That is the important transition that we've gone through. And the good news is that it's not ending. We now can see through the next 4 generations. So we can see out actually about 5 generations, the middle of 2015, 2017. We kind of know how to do it. And I say that and I feel really embarrassed because I am saying, oh, we know, as if it's easy. No, it means all we have to do is violate the laws of physics, change things with carbon nanotubes and 3-dimensional transistors, and but we kind of know that it's possible to do it. And that's the furthest we've ever done that. And that's really important. It's important for the planet. It's important for everything we do and every industry we're in. The impact is really profound. If you look at this, what this shows is since 1970, we've actually reduced the amount of energy taken by a single transistor by 1 million times. 1 million times less energy per transistor than in 1970. And at the same time, we've exceeded Moore's law from a performance point of view by doubling every 18 months over that period of time. So a phenomenal change that has huge issues. When we started selling transistors, they cost $59 each. In 2007, we sold more transistors than the world sold grains of rice at a lower cost than a grain of rice. So this industry is about things that the numbers are so big or so small that you can't possibly conceive, but they are intrinsic to everything we do, to our children's education, to how we build roads, to how we cure cancer. All of these things depend on Moore's law. Now, when we look at that, if we apply that to a car, and I hate this analogy in some ways because it's more complex than this, but a car would cost, versus 1968, a car would cost about 1/millionth of what it did, so it'd be about 1 cent. Now, I decided if it only cost 1 cent, I'd like a really nice car, so ours costs 2 cents, but it's a much nicer car. This is the kind of level of change that Moore's law brings to us. Now, to basically utilize Moore's law, what we at Intel have done is something called a tick-tock model. And what that means is every year we either shrink the products down to a new technology, 45 nanometers, 35 nanometers, or 32 nanometers, 22 nanometers, et cetera, or we re-architect and add new capability, because we've got all this room to play with now. We have more transistors we can use for different things. And that tick-tock has been incredibly important to us in continuing to innovate. This is where we are today with Nehalem, which is the newest microarchitecture on that. And what it's allowing us to do with this change is it allows us to extend now to many different environments, to move to petaflops of performance at the high end, to the smallest and most inexpensive and ubiquitous devices at the low end. So it changes what people think of as computers. And the reason we're doing that is the internet. The internet is big, and it's growing. 1.4 billion internet users, 150 million websites, 10 hours of new video uploaded to YouTube every minute. Every minute, 10 hours of video. 1 billion instant messenger users, and over 98% of HTTP requests are video. 100,000 blogs created every day, $750 billion online sales in a year, 3 million Twitter messages sent every day. How many people here use Twitter? There are some great things on Twitter. I still haven't figured out why I want to know when my friend's in a line at the bank. But there are some great things. What's really amazing is it didn't exist 18 months ago. That's how fast this world changes. And when we look at this space, it requires new solutions and new devices. And so we see the world moving from a world of mainframes with researchers to a world of client servers and IT kind of running it, to the web, which was ubiquitous, which included cell phones, which was starting to move to different environments, and now moving towards a world that is pervasive. 15 billion devices, every car, every sign, the world where we are connected and where it is expected that you are connected. That world is going to take different technologies and solutions, and it's an enormous opportunity. It's an opportunity for people who embrace new technology, and I don't think we could go to a place that is more embracing of new technology than Sweden. So I think there's huge opportunities here. It also brings out new devices. And what you see here is some things that are just in the last year. So you see notebooks going to quad-core. You have the largest LAN party in the world occurs here in Sweden. And if you've been to a LAN party, you see people carrying about 100 kilos worth of kit with them to go into this LAN party. The reality is with quad-core notebooks now, you don't have to be embarrassed when you walk in with it under your arm. It's a major change. At the same time, we have incorporated platform security and encryption into the platform. We have created new devices like the Netbook, which has been an enormous success this year with millions of units sold, and the MIDs, which are now arriving to bring a screen that's big enough to view, all-day battery life, and new form factors, and a device that knows where you are. And now you're seeing that will be not one device, by the way, but hundreds of devices that all look slightly different and do things in a slightly different way. You also see the connection moving outdoors, the connection to moving to where you are. Last year, 13 million dongles were sold for 3G and HSPA across Europe. That's a pretty big number. Moving forward, we've already seen this year over 400 networks deployed with WiMAX to give 4G capabilities and very high-speed broadband access. And we'll see that grow to over 1 billion POPs passed in the next 2 years as we move even further forward so that where you are is connected. And you will be able to see new environments. We don't know what the next Twitter is going to be in that environment. It probably has something to do with you being where you are, somebody knowing where you are, and being high-speed connected. But beyond that, I think we have to wait for the world to tell us, because we have, as an industry, an absolutely perfect record of not figuring out what people want until they tell us. So the good news is we're consistent, and the good news is we have huge opportunities with that.